David, you are taking a look at NCB selling their stake in Bermuda Bank. Clarien, what's going on there? Why did they sell?
Well, the sale hasn't officially taken place as yet. It was an announcement that they're planning to sell 30.2% of their stake in Clarien to Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited. Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited being the parent company of Barita Investors Limited under the listed company in the JSE. So right now we know that NCB Financial Group, particularly the standalone company, not the consolidated group, the holding company itself, it is a bit of debt that is coming due between this year and next year. So in this context, based on the current economic environment, and Andre have mentioned a while ago in terms of the anticipation of potential rate cuts or no cuts, the reality is that debt still has to be paid. And the relative tightness in different areas of the market, whether it be US dollar or JMB instruments, depending on how that capital is being raised, you're still going to need to pay that debt. So in this case, NCB, has decided to, but NCB Financial Group has decided to actually push more towards it was now some non-core assets to, reduce the leverage position and concentrate back into more of their specialized business in NCBJ and focus a little bit more on Guardian. So that's kind of the perspective, because we also heard that after the financial year, back in February, we heard that NCB said they're planning to sell NCB Cayman, which is a Cayman bank that is held directly under NCBJ, which is a commercial banking subsidiary that we all know and love in Jamaica. So, that's really what's going on, to the divestments announced, so far in this financial year. When it actually closes, still yet to be determined, because it has to go through regulatory approvals. And even then, it's likely to close at the end of the financial year rather than just being a random period in time, for example, June 28th.
Is it that they're pressed for cash? Because we do know that their APO, they only raised half of what they wanted to raise. They also have a note out that came out right after the APO, and they extended it for a week. Is it that NCB just is scrambling for cash right now?
So, to put it into perspective, right? NCBFG, the holding company, has $36.84 billion worth of debt that was maturing between October 2023 September 2024. $36 billion is the amount of money, is in a sense the amount of money that went at the Trans Jamaica Limited back in January 2020 when money was cheap before COVID. So the debt pile to refinance in any perspective is pretty heavy. And there are a couple of different factors that you have to remember. NCB Financial cannot just say to NCBJ, hey, I'm going to put a bag of money to you as a dividend to pay down my bills. NCBJ has its own regulatory obligations to consider alongside other considerations. And you also have to remember that while JHM might pay dividends, how that differentiates NCBFG's bank account is another question. Never really getting full clarity on that perspective, because in Trinidad, getting USD is kind of a tough battle. But yeah, they have a pretty heavy debt bill, for the 2024 financial year, which runs from October 2023 to September 2024, because as I went to Kalila, $36 billion, that's more than $200 million US dollars to repay or refinance it in 1 year. So, it's pretty tough on them from the perspective that APO got about half of what they had intended. And the reality is, they announced the sale of the bank in Cayman, but we don't see a person to sell it at. And we don't know what other tools they might to pull out of their hat to try and, manage that debt pile that is coming due. What we keep forgetting is that the holding company doesn't operate day-to-day operations. It's really relies on the subsidiaries to pay debt, pay shareholders, and so forth. So that's really how it works in a very simple perspective.
Now, D says, NCBFG is finding the money to pay me my bond that will be due soon. I love it. And adding, wonder how soon they want more money to borrow. Who are they selling to, by the way, for the Clarien deal?
So I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion, they're selling it to Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited. That's the parent company,
Cornerstone.
Bermuda.
Yes, I did see that. That's Paul Simpson's company. Isn't
Correct.
Michael Leachin Paul Simpson's mentor?
Correct. And Michael Leachin is also the godfather of Paul Simpson's daughter.
Right, right. So I
Yeah.
see some
And it,
connection. So has Cornerstone said anything about their intentions for Clarien?
well, I haven't seen any additional press releases from Cornerstone, so just have to wait and see what they're going to say. Barita's AGM is this Friday, so well, it's virtual, so person can probably ask some questions, to the Paul Simpson and others if they are willing to give even a basic answer on those developments. But I haven't seen anything else on Cornerstone read the acquisition of Clarien.
Interesting stuff. One to
And
watch for sure. And
just
once again, if Paul Simpson is watching, I've been inviting you to the show for the longest. We're ready to have you. If anybody knows him personally, send him a message and tell him he has an open invitation to taking stock.
one thing I was going to say, Kalila, was that earlier Andre was kind of discussing the whole principle around yields, basically, and just keep it simple, right? When interest rate rising, older existing bonds in value. Why would I buy? Let's just say, why would I buy a 2018 car that probably has another useful life of 5 years, when I can buy a 2024 car that will give me a useful life of 10 years and with better performance and mileage? So in the inverse scenario, in the sense that when rates start to come down, what happens is that, let us say the car I purchased was a rare collectible, still giving great performance. It's relatively rare. Everybody else who would want it would need to pay a higher price to actually receive it. So in the case of a yield, remember it's basically the interest payments or whatever dividends you have divided by the price. So if the price is going up, the yield comes down. So if more persons are looking to potentially seek to capture some of these higher interest paying instruments, they're gonna have to pay more money, which drags on the yield. But in this case, if you're already a holder of some of these instruments at higher rates, it means that you're going to see the capital gains, which you can potentially realize if there's a secondary market, whether OTC or listed. So this is kind of how rates going up or down in turn, impacts your fixed income instruments. With the equities, that is a factor of, different investment attitudes and stances. And one of the key things that come out of low interest rates in particular is that companies should have wanted to come to the market. So they might have deferred their decision to list because they want a higher valuation. So instead of coming to list at, let's say, $10 billion, they can list probably a year later, if the rates come down from 7% to 5% from the BOJ perspective, the potential could list at probably $12, $13 billion instead, which was better for existing owners. So the reduction in interest rates is something that everybody's going to be looking very carefully at. We have 3 events on Friday. Barita's AGM at 10 o'clock. There's the FATF Grey List update for Jamaica. That's on Friday as well. And we also have the BOJ monetary policy press announcement. So that's when the BOJ announced the decision of the monetary policy committee as well. So Friday, the final business day of the quarter is going to be quite a jam-packed period. Also equities as well, for those who trade the equities and the quarterly month in perspective.
Absolutely. A lot to keep our eye on. We have a couple of comments. NCB Roswell says, NCB trading at a nice discounted price, $56. I like that. How long will you like it for, though, Roswell? And then Sean says, NCBFG is at 56.02. Can you imagine investing from IPO only to gain 200% capital gain and losing it all in 5 years? That's scary.
Well, NCB had its IPO from the 1980s, but I get the perspective that Roswell is kind of pointing out, persons that probably would have purchased NCB at $50, $70, call it 2017, 2018, so it goes as high as $200 in 2019, and to come back around to 56 is quite a 180-degree shift, basically. Dividends have returned, but at the same time, very different economic environment. So let us see what happens over the next year when rates potentially abate and persons have a little more, a stronger appetite, I should say, for equities.
And investor confidence in general and investor confidence specifically in NCB.
Well, the team, is doing all these different activities to try and shore up, further confidence by customers and also shareholders. So we should look up potentially for probably the first couple of days in August for the NCB Financial Group investor briefing to see, what the management's plan is, read the debt pile and the post-mortem of their assessment of the APO, which, didn't garner as much as they expected. One additional comment, is in Trinidad, well, at one point in the APO, NCB was trading cheaper in Trinidad than it was in Jamaica. So it went as low as $2.50 TT. It's bounced back up to $3.10 TT now, so 24% gain in less than a couple of weeks and trading above Jamaican dollar price again, but kind of crazy though still, because in most scenarios, the Trinidad stock price trades above the Jamaican stock price. So it's been pretty interesting.
Stock price and the Jamaican trading price was already below the APO price. So if Jamaica was below APO and then Trinidad was even below Jamaica, wow.
Exactly. So, and the thing is, the APO shares have not been listed as yet. So how do I know that? So if you actually go and check the shares outstanding, go on the JSE's website, go on NCBFG, if you look at the share count today vis-a-vis the share count listed in the Q2 report, you're really just unchanged. So even though the APO is closed from June 3, the shares are yet to be listed at the moment. Likely to be listed by Friday if all goes well, but yeah, those additional shares which are now at a loss have not touched the market as yet. So interesting times in the coming weeks as well.
All right. Thank you so much, David. Thank you, Andre.
You're welcome, Kalila.